Salam, peace be upon you. My name is Mohammed Layiq Sediqi, the father of Holophase. Part 15: Jerk, Snap, and the Higher Curvature Ladder. Remember the language we are learning together. There is one field, phi, the holophase, the single cyclic movement from which all reality unfolds. When phi differentiates, that one movement generates its first derivatives, and with them, the three dimensions appear at once: time as omega, space as k, and motion as v. From that first differentiation upward, every higher derivative is an echo of the one below it, an infinite ascent of finer and finer reflections of phi's original movement. Because the dimensions are born from that first echo, time, space, and motion also reverberate into infinity, carrying phi's unfolding into ever deeper rhythms, structures, and flows. Thus, the entire universe, every law, every pattern, every force, every particle, every phenomenon, is nothing but phi, endlessly echoing through its derivatives and their dimensional shadows. All of existence is the infinite echo of one field. Today, we listen to just one of those echoes. In our last exploration, we completed Chapter 3, Second Order Semantics. We walked through the full nuance block: alpha in time, A, curvature, convergence, shear, and twist in space, and the mixed derivatives that weave time and space together into one fabric. With second derivatives, reality's language became rich with structure: acceleration for time, curvature for space, and the first explicit coupling between time and space. Now we climb higher. We step beyond the comfortable plateau of second derivatives and begin our ascent into the infinite towers of higher semantics. We enter Chapter 4, Higher Order Semantics, the Infinite Towers. Our first step up introduces us to a more subtle but profoundly important realm: jerk, snap, and the higher curvature ladder. If second derivatives gave us nuance, the bending of time and space, then third and higher derivatives give us the nuance of nuance, the change of the change of the change, the refinement of refinement. Today, we learn to feel and name these higher layers of how reality unfolds. 1. From acceleration to jerk, the third temporal question. Let us begin with a familiar moment in everyday life. You are riding in a car with an inexperienced driver. The traffic light turns green. They press the accelerator, but they press it suddenly, not gently. You feel a sharp lurch backward in your body. A moment later, they realize they are pressing too hard and lift their foot abruptly. Now your body jerks forward. What you are feeling in those moments is not simply acceleration itself. A smooth, constant acceleration feels like a steady push. The uncomfortable lurch is something more refined. It is the change in acceleration, the rate at which the push itself is turning on and off. That is jerk. Velocity tells you how fast you are moving. Acceleration tells you how quickly your velocity is changing. Jerk tells you how quickly your acceleration is changing. It is the third temporal question. Not just how fast, and not just how much faster, but how suddenly are you becoming faster or slower. This ladder continues upward. Snap is the rate of change of jerk. Crackle is the rate of change of snap. Pop is the change of crackle. These playful names hide a serious structure, an infinite temporal tower where each level asks a more delicate question about how phi's rhythm unfolds in time. The same idea exists in space. Curvature, the second spatial derivative, tells us how a slope bends. A third spatial derivative tells us how that curvature itself changes along a curve, whether the bend tightens or relaxes as you move. Higher spatial derivatives describe finer and finer features of shape. They show up wherever the smoothness or roughness of change matters. They distinguish a roller coaster that feels thrilling but controlled from one that feels violent or sickening. A musical crescendo that feels organic and emotional from one that feels abrupt and harsh. An economy slipping gently into growth from one that stumbles between boom and collapse. Jerk and the higher derivatives are the universe's way of saying it is not only that things change, but that the manner and smoothness of that change matter. 2. Linguistic role, the mood of transitions. In the holophase language, we can think of these higher derivatives as refining the grammar of motion. Omega is like a simple, direct sentence. Phi oscillates quickly. Alpha adds a comparative. Phi oscillates increasingly quickly. Jerk introduces a new mood. It speaks about how the change itself begins, how transitions unfold, how sharply or softly the system moves into new behavior. Imagine building increasingly subtle temporal sentences. The process oscillates, that is, phi moving. The process oscillates quickly. Omega modifies the basic rhythm. The process oscillates more and more quickly. Alpha modifies omega. Now add jerk. The process begins to oscillate more and more quickly all of a sudden. Here, jerk is not about the speed or the acceleration alone, but about the onset of that acceleration, the character of the transition. Jerk and its higher relatives add qualifiers to the qualifiers. They describe not only how things are changing, but how the change itself is arriving and departing. In that sense, higher derivatives act like modal operators in this language. They adjust the how of modification. They express thresholds, tipping points, soft onsets, and hard onsets, the difference between gradual awakening and sudden shock. In the master tree, this is our first explicit step into infinite ascent. We are no longer just saying the tree goes up forever. We are meeting actual named rungs. Jerk at the third level, snap at the fourth, crackle and pop beyond, and so on, without bound, in both time and space. 3. Scientific essence. Measures of smoothness. Operationally, jerk is the time derivative of acceleration. If acceleration is measured in meters per second, then jerk is measured in meters per second per second per second. It is the third time derivative of position, or the second time derivative of velocity, or the first time derivative of acceleration. Snap is the time derivative of jerk, the fourth time derivative of position, and so on. A simple way to grasp this is to think of smoothness. Constant acceleration with zero jerk is perfectly smooth. Your speed increases steadily, and your body can settle into the feeling. Non-zero jerk means that the acceleration is changing. The push itself is rising or falling. The bigger the jerk, the more abrupt the change in acceleration. Snap measures how fast jerk itself is changing, and so on up the ladder. These higher derivatives quantify the smoothness of smoothness. Spatially, the same structure appears in the curvature ladder. The second spatial derivative tells you how a curve bends. The third tells you how quickly that bend tightens or relaxes as you move along the curve. The fourth tells you how smoothly that tightening pattern itself changes. Engineers use these ideas when designing roads, train tracks, and roller coasters. It is not enough to specify curvature, you must control how curvature changes to make the experience safe and comfortable. This reveals the core meaning of higher derivatives. They are about the quality of motion and the quality of shape. They distinguish elegant, flowing evolution from rough, jagged evolution. They provide a precise way to talk about refinement in how things move and how they are formed. 4. Dimensional expression. How jerk echoes in time, space, and motion. Like every true letter in the holophase language, jerk and its higher companions echo through all three dimensions: time, space, and motion. In time, jerk shapes the texture of acceleration. Two cars can go from zero to the same speed in the same time, with the same overall acceleration profile when averaged, but feel utterly different inside. In one car, acceleration rises gently from zero, stays roughly constant, and then gently falls back to zero, low jerk. In another, the driver surges and relaxes repeatedly. Acceleration jumps up and down, high jerk. Your stomach, your muscles, your inner ear are all reading jerk, not just acceleration. In music, the same temporal structure appears in sound. A gentle crescendo, where volume rises smoothly, corresponds to a low jerk evolution of amplitude. A sudden blast of sound is a high jerk event. A swell that builds and suddenly cuts off combines positive and negative jerk. The emotional texture of the music, whether it soothes, surprises, startles, or unsettles, depends strongly on these jerk patterns. Two performances of the same score, with the same notes and same tempo, can feel completely different because the musician has shaped the higher derivatives, the contours of loudness and attack, differently. In space, higher curvature derivatives show up as the fine detail of form. Run your finger along the edge of a well designed object, a car body, a crafted wooden chair, a sculpted statue. You will feel that the curve flows, that there are no sharp, unexpected kinks. The curvature changes gently. The third and fourth derivatives are well behaved. Now compare that with a poorly designed or cheaply manufactured edge. You may feel awkward bumps, sudden changes in curvature, transitions that feel off. Your eyes and fingers are detecting patterns in higher derivatives. The same holds for roads and paths. A highway curve that tightens gradually feels safe and comfortable. A curve whose bend changes abruptly feels dangerous, even if the posted speed is the same. In motion, jerk and higher derivatives are experienced as the feel of movement. Elevator designers work hard to shape the acceleration profile so that jerk is minimized. High-end lifts start moving and stop moving so gently that you hardly notice. In theme parks, some rides exploit jerk intentionally. Carefully controlled spikes in jerk create thrills while staying within safety limits. In robotics and manufacturing, machines that move too jerkily cause vibrations, noise, and wear. Controlling jerk and even snap is crucial for precision and longevity. 5. Position in the master tree. The first explicit infinite towers. Now let us place jerk and the higher curvature ladder in the structure of the master tree. In the temporal tower, level 0 is phi, the root field. Level 1 is omega, the first derivative in time. Level 2 is alpha, the second derivative. Level 3 is jerk, the third derivative. Level 4 is snap, the fourth, and the ladder continues upward indefinitely. In the spatial tower, an analogous ladder rises. Level 0 is phi. Level 1 is k, the first derivative in space. Level 2 is curvature and its family of second-order spatial structures. Level 3 consists of curvature drift and other third-order spatial features. Level 4 contains even higher-order shape descriptors. Once again, the tower climbs without bound. This is our first concrete contact with the infinite height of the master tree. In earlier chapters, we said that the tree extends to arbitrarily high derivatives in principle. In chapter 4, we begin to touch that infinity, naming specific rungs, feeling how each new level refines the previous one. The same is true in the mixed tower. There are third-order mixed derivatives, fourth-order mixed derivatives, and so on. Each tower, temporal, spatial, and mixed, stretches upward forever, giving the holophase language limitless descriptive depth. 6. Relations to neighboring branches. Jerk and higher derivatives live in dense neighborhoods of relationships. With alpha, jerk is simply the time change of acceleration. One cannot speak of jerk without first having acceleration. Jerk is born directly from alpha. With V, motion, the connection is immediate. Jerk is what you feel when motion changes abruptly. Ride quality engineering, comfort research, and motion sickness studies focus precisely on controlling jerk. In control theory and robotics, higher derivatives are central. A simple controller might care about position and velocity. A better controller also cares about acceleration. A high-end controller shapes jerk and sometimes snap to produce motions that are both accurate and smooth. In computer animation, ease-in and ease-out curves are designed to manage higher derivatives so that movements feel alive rather than mechanical. In wave physics, higher derivatives appear in expansions of dispersion relations. The first derivative of omega with respect to k gives group velocity, how fast the wave packet travels. The second derivative controls how that packet spreads. The third and higher derivatives refine the description of pulse shaping. In material science, higher spatial derivatives of surface height or refractive index influence friction, scattering, and gloss. In stability theory, whether a system gently returns to equilibrium or overshoots and oscillates wildly can depend on the signs and magnitudes of higher derivatives in its governing equations. Together, these relationships show that higher derivatives sit at the interface between what happens and how it feels, between dynamics and quality. Semantic meaning, the quality of change. So, what does Jerk say in the universe's conversation? Jerk says, change has a style, transitions have a character. Higher derivatives say, there are infinitely many shades in how processes unfold. Second derivatives give us dynamics, acceleration, and curvature. Third and higher derivatives give us the aesthetics of dynamics. They tell us whether the story of change is graceful or clumsy, gentle or violent, controlled or chaotic. Their semantic role is qualitative refinement. They add shades of meaning to the basic narrative of motion and form. They allow the holophase language to express smoothness versus roughness, grace versus awkwardness, stability versus twitchiness, clarity versus distortion, craftsmanship versus crudeness. They are the vocabulary of excellence, the difference between a note being played and a note being shaped, between a building standing and a building feeling harmonious, between a path existing and a path inviting you to walk it. 8. Stability, variability, and falsifiability. As always in this language, meaning must meet measurement. Zero higher derivatives correspond to perfectly smooth processes, constant acceleration with no jerk, constant curvature with no higher bending, perfectly steady growth with no swings. These are idealized limits, rarely realized exactly, but powerful as reference points. Low but non-zero higher derivatives correspond to well-controlled processes. High-quality cars, aircraft, and machines are designed so that jerk stays within comfortable bounds. High-quality surfaces are designed so that their curvature changes gently. Many engineering standards specify limits on jerk and on higher derivatives of shape. Large or rapidly varying higher derivatives signal roughness or instability. Machinery that vibrates, structures that resonate dangerously, economic indicators that swing wildly, all involve higher derivatives that are poorly controlled. These quantities are measurable. Accelerometers can record acceleration and jerk in vehicles and buildings. Motion capture systems can extract higher derivatives from human movement. Surface scanners can compute higher spatial derivatives for manufactured parts. Signal analyzers can trace higher derivatives in transmitted waveforms. The holophase framework makes specific predictions that human comfort will correlate with jerk bounds, that perceived elegance in motion and form will correlate with patterns in higher derivatives, that optimizing certain performance criteria will naturally constrain these derivatives. If we consistently find systems that feel smooth and yet display wildly uncontrolled higher derivatives when measured, the model would be challenged. If we find that controlling higher derivatives improves quality in line with the theory, the model gains support. 9. Appearance in nature, jerk, and the texture of reality. Once you know this ladder, you begin to see and feel it everywhere. In engineering, vehicle ride quality is a classic case. Luxury cars are tuned for low jerk to create a sense of calm and control. Performance cars sometimes allow higher jerk, trading comfort for responsiveness. Elevators, trains, robotic arms, and camera rigs all carry the imprint of how seriously their designers treated jerk and higher derivatives. In biology and medicine, human and animal motion is full of higher derivative structure. Skilled athletes move with smooth, well-controlled jerk profiles. Novices are often jerky. Neurological conditions can be diagnosed and monitored by analyzing jerk and higher derivatives in gait and hand movement. The development of a child's motor skills can be tracked by watching jerk decrease over time as control improves. In the natural world, earthquake damage correlates not just with peak acceleration of the ground, but with jerk, how abruptly that acceleration arrives. In optics, lens imperfections involve higher derivatives of the refractive index and surface profile, and controlling them leads to sharper images. In fluids, the transition from laminar to turbulent flow is associated with increasing complexity in the derivatives of velocity fields. Even in social and economic systems, we see analogs. Not only do prices rise or fall, not only does the rate of change accelerate or decelerate, but the change of acceleration, economic jerk, often signals approaching instability or shock. Everyday analogies. Feeling the ladder in daily life. To bring this all the way into your experience, think again of the elevator. You know a bad elevator because it kicks you at the start and at the end. You know a good one because you barely notice those transitions. That difference is jerk. An exceptional elevator even softens the onset and offset of jerk, shaping snap, so the ride feels almost otherworldly smooth. Think of pouring tea. An abrupt tilt of the teapot creates splashes and spills, high jerk in the tilt angle. A gentle, controlled tilt, where acceleration of the motion increases and decreases smoothly, gives a clean, quiet pour. Think of drawing a curve with a pencil. An unsteady line has curvature that changes abruptly from point to point. A masterful stroke has curvature that glides. Think of a dancer stepping onto a stage. A beginner might move in blocky, segmented motions. A skilled dancer glides between positions, shaping jerk and snap with exquisite control. Music gives another everyday window. A beginner pianist may strike notes with hard edges, sudden attacks and abrupt releases, high jack in amplitude. A virtuoso shapes the onset and decay of each note so carefully that sound blooms and fades as if it has a life of its own. You are listening to higher derivatives in the volume envelope, even if you never think of it that way. 11. How to read higher derivatives in the world. After this part, you can practice reading higher derivatives in everything around you. Whenever you feel something move, ask, how did this start? How did it stop? That feeling at the start and end is your nervous system sampling jack. When you travel by car, bus, or train, pay attention to how the driver or system handles acceleration. Smooth ramps versus sudden surges. When you take an escalator or an elevator, notice whether the beginning and ending feel gentle or abrupt. Trace curves with your eyes and fingers. The edge of a table, the arch of a bridge, the curve of a handle, the outline of a leaf. If the curve feels cheap or awkward, it often means higher derivatives are misbehaving. If it feels right, elegant, or satisfying, you are resonating with well-shaped higher derivatives. Listen for quality in sound. How notes enter and leave, how voices swell and relax, how machines spin up and wind down. All of these are stories written in higher derivatives. 12. Connection back to phi. One field, infinite refinement. We always return to the source. Jerk and all the higher orders are not new substances. They are more detailed questions we ask of the same field, phi. In the temporal lineage, phi is the silent cyclic field. Omega tells us how fast it turns. Alpha tells us how that turning rate changes. Jerk tells us how the changing of the turning rate itself changes. Snap tells us how jerk changes, and so on, forever. Each new derivative is a finer lens on the same underlying movement. This reveals a profound feature of reality. There is no fundamental limit to how finely we can describe the way things unfold. The holophase language organizes that limitless refinement into a clean ladder. First derivatives, second derivatives, third, fourth, and higher. The field itself remains one and the same. All the complexity lives in how we choose to interrogate it. At the level of fundamental laws, nature often uses first and second derivatives. But when we care about comfort, elegance, stability, aesthetics, and quality, higher derivatives become essential. The trunk and major branches of the tree carry the main structure, but the fine twigs and leaves, The details that make the tree beautiful and alive are the higher derivatives. 13. Closing movement. Infinite towers of meaning. As we close part 15, we stand at the threshold of the infinite towers. We have seen the whole tree. We have learned the first order alphabet. We have mastered the second order nuance of acceleration and curvature. Now we have taken our first real step into the infinite. Jerk, snap, and the higher curvature ladder. We have discovered that reality's description is not just wide, spanning energy, fields, matter, and information, but also tall, with infinite vertical depth. Beyond acceleration lies jerk. Beyond jerk lies snap. Beyond curvature lies curvature drift. And so on, without end. Quality, grace, smoothness, refinement, and stability. All of these are written in the language of higher derivatives. In our next part, we will see how these higher derivatives combine to shape whole wave packets and envelopes. We will explore how pulses spread, focus, and reshape as they travel, and how the symphony of derivatives together defines the life story of a wave. But for now, hold this understanding close. Reality has infinite layers of nuance. Time's rhythm does not simply speed up or slow down. The way that speeding and slowing begins and ends has its own structure. Space does not merely curve. The way curvature tightens and relaxes has its own texture. Motion is not just moving. It is moving with a style, a grace, a character that can be read in higher derivatives. Whenever you experience a smooth ride, a beautiful curve, a perfectly shaped sound, you are touching those higher layers. You are feeling phi's infinite ability to refine its own unfolding. You are reading the quality markers woven into the sentences of existence. Jerk is the change of acceleration. Snap is the change of jerk. And the ladder continues upward, building an endless vocabulary of quality that allows the universe not only to exist, but to exist with grace, subtlety, and infinite descriptive depth. Salam, and peace be upon you, until part 16.